All right, guys, welcome back to the Duck Zone. I am Sean Waters. This is James Sargent. We're going to be talking all things sports that have happened here in the last week or so. Big basketball stuff that has happened this week. The draft, the finals wrapped up not too long ago. A lot of fun stuff happening in the soccer world. And we're going to talk a little bit of 4th of July stuff as well as that's coming around the corner. James, welcome on in. How you doing?
Good. Episode 2. I feel nice and refreshed. I was sailing down in the Caribbean, down in the British Virgin Islands, so I'm ready to get back on track and keep these podcasts rolling.
Sounds good. Sounds a lot better than the 113 degrees here in Phoenix.
Oh, man. I mean, it was hot down there, don't get me wrong. It was very humid,
Oh
but
yeah,
I'll take 80s and humidity
yeah. The
and
humidity down
sailing
there
around
is
in the ocean.
yeah, the humidity down there is rough. I'm heading to Florida in like a couple weeks, and I'm getting prepared for like the 90 degrees with 90% humidity, which is just it's heavy. So
You get out of the shower and you dry off, and then you're wet again.
yeah,
It's unbelievable.
it's weird. But we'll start off this episode. Celtics won the finals. What was your reaction to the NBA finals? What was your thoughts? How do you think it was?
Well, I was dead wrong on my picks from our initial episode. I had Luca going off, which he offensively did. He definitely had quite the backlash from his defensive prowess, especially that I can't remember, was it game 4? Then he got fouled out. Whatever game he fouled out, he took quite the
It
backlash
was
from the media.
yeah,
3, was it
three.
3? I missed a lot of it. I only watched game 1 and the final game. But I I couldn't have been any more wrong. I mean, I picked Dallas to win. That didn't happen. I had Luca winning MVP. Um, but yeah, hats off to Boston. I'm happy for Al Horford. That's really all I can say. I'll be honest. I That trip I had, I was just kind of catching glimpses here and there, anything I could find on my phone when I had Wi-Fi. But it pretty much seemed like Boston handled it from start to finish. And when I say start to finish, the start of the season, even to the end of the season, they were pretty dominant, and they definitely deserved to win it.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest reaction to the finals was it just felt super underwhelming. Um, that first game, I mean, it was what the first half. Boston was up by 25, almost 30 points, I believe. It was like, this is rough. And the whole series just kind of felt very dominated, and even dominated by Boston. But the thing that was crazy, even the game that Dallas won, they won by like 30. Like every game didn't really feel close. And you just kind of knew Boston, for me at least, after game one, it was like, okay, Boston's going to win this thing. Just how quickly is it going to go? So that was
And it
kind of
kind of
my
seemed
big.
like that was how it was the entire playoffs. I mean, kind of personally, I thought the NBA Finals kind of showed how the entire playoffs went. There were so many blowouts. Rarely did we see close games. I mean, I'm not disappointed that I missed the finals. I'll say that. I honestly didn't really miss much. It wasn't that exciting. I'm
No,
sorry if you're a hardcore NBA fan, but unless you were a Boston fan, there's no way that you can tell me that you were excited about what you watched.
no, it was not a great NBA Finals. But let's put that aside. Let's look towards the future. This week, the NBA draft happened, and I'll just say right off the bat, this was a draft that I believe is going to be filled with six man. Not a lot of all stars, superstars coming out of this draft, but kind of deep in guys that are going to fill out the roster. What are a couple of guys that stood out to you? What's kind of your big storylines coming out of the draft? I know you have some talking points. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk over each other a little bit when it comes to like players, or I think the biggest thing right off the bat is the French takeover. I mean, the first two guys I got drafted were French. honestly, I don't really know much about Risachet and Sar, other than what I saw on the draft coverage last night. I did a poor job of researching just because everything you saw was, oh, this is a bad draft class. The guys going number 1 and 2 in any other draft would be down in the 5, 6, 7 range. So they have a lot to prove. I think. I'm sure. If any of those guys become a superstar, they'll be first to point back at the media for coming at them for how bad of a draft that this potentially could be. But my first one would definitely be the French takeover. I think there was 3 French guys in the top 6 picks, if I'm not mistaken. Reed Shepard, I think that was a good pick by the Rockets. I think he is by far the best shooter in the class, but he doesn't have superstar potential. I mean, to think that Reed Shepard is going 3 overall, I get the metrics were there. He was like the highest vert guy, or running vert, and then had the 4th highest standing vert, and it's like, okay, cool, he's a really good athlete, but from what I saw at Kentucky, like, he's good, but is he number 3? I don't know about that. So that was my biggest one, I guess, was the French takeover.
Okay.
What about, so I have a question for you, Sean. Zach Edey going 9.
Yeah, that's
What
actually I was
what
going
is
to
that
jump
all
in.
about?
Yeah, I was going to jump into that. I think it's interesting that he goes to Memphis, which will be very interesting because it always feels like throughout Memphis's whole existence, they've always had a big center, or they've always had, you know, they've played through Pau Gasol and all these guys throughout the years. It feels like they've always been big. So now they bring in a 7'5" guy, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they incorporate him. Very interested to see how it goes. I'm shocked how much over the past year his draft stock rose. I thought for sure, even going to just a few days ago, he'd be, around 20. When I saw him go at 9, I was like, "Whoa, this is interesting." But he is something that the league has not seen in a while. There's not a lot of 7'5" guys who are just going to dominate down low. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's incorporated. It's worth a gamble. I mean, it's like, if it pays off, it's going to be really hard to guard. Um, and it'll be interesting to see how the referees ref him. He's probably going to be able to get away more with stuff in the pros than he did in college. So I'm really intrigued to see how that pays off. But 9, I used earlier than I thought. There was a lot of guys that fell, in my opinion, that were surprising. What was your thought on Edey? And then on top of that, what were a couple of guys that fell for you?
Yeah, Edey's interesting. He went from, oh, he's not going to play in the NBA. Oh, he had a good combine workout. Okay, maybe this will work out. And then all of a sudden, you're watching the draft and he gets drafted at 9. I kind of thought it was a little too high, but he might fit that Grizzlies team all right. I mean, he can catch lobs from Ja Morant. It pushes Jaren Jackson Jr. back to the power forward spot. And at that point, you might as well just not drive the ball with Edey down low, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. So he might have fallen into the right situation. He also has, I think Steven Adams is still on that team. And Steven Adams, pound for pound, maybe not pound for pound, because there's some little guys that are pound for pound pretty damn good, but Steven Adams might be the strongest guy in the NBA. So it'll be nice for him to go up against him in practice, just to, really define that physicality. As for guys that fell, Cody Williams is an interesting one for me from Colorado. He was pegged as like the number 1 overall pick months ago. He didn't have the greatest season. I think he was coming off the bench at Colorado, but he's someone who, if he can just become half of what his brother is, Jalen Williams on the Thunder, I mean, that could be a really good pick for the Jazz. And then I think the big two takeaways from the first round, when you ask me who the biggest fallers are, definitely Dalton Connect. I think people were afraid because he was older. He's 23, and he came from junior college, played at Northern Colorado, transferred to Tennessee for one season. But I think the Lakers got a really good role player, and he'll be able to contribute right away.
Mm-hmm.
The second guy, a little bit of a homer pick for me, and I guess he didn't fall necessarily, but being a Suns fan, I'm really excited with the Ryan Dunn pick. He was projected as one of the guys that we were targeting at 22, and we were able to trade down and still get him at 28. So he's super, super athletic, very defensive minded. He kind of reminds me of like a Josh Hart, maybe even like, and this take this with a grain of salt, Sean Marion. Not as good offensively as Sean Marion, but that Sean Marion came into the league as a defensive guy, couldn't really shoot, actually never really could shoot, but somehow ended up knocking down shots here and there. But I think Ryan Dunn kind of fits that defensive mold that Mike Budenholzer is going to hopefully use off the bench.
I mean, I want to spotlight two teams, and you actually mentioned both of them already, but I'm just going to kind of bring in some other names here. I thought Utah actually had a really good draft. Danny Ainge is always good at getting young talent, and once again, he got a lot of guys with what the draft spots were. I think he got a lot of value. Williams getting him at 10. As you said, he was a projected number, like at a point, he was the number one pick at a point. They got the kid out of USC, Collier, I think is his name. Remember, he was supposed to be a high pick. They got him at 29. And then Filikowski out of Duke falls to the second round, and I think he's going to be really good, given the fact that now he can, model his game and learn under Lauri Markkanen, kind of go from there. I think they're building something in Utah. They're going to be bad next year, don't get me wrong. But the crazy thing about that is they're holding tons of draft picks. We know next year's draft is going to be actually a very good one. So Utah is building for the future, and they picked up three very nice pieces at lower spots than what they were supposed to go. So I thought Utah did a really good job, and we won't see that next year, but we're going to see that kind of grow down the line, kind of like almost like an Oklahoma City thing happening all over again. The other one is I want to talk Lakers. Connect, I thought was a great pick. You already connected kind of on that. But I do want to talk Bronny James just for a moment. It feels at 55, why not? I mean, you're not going to get a lot of guys making it to the NBA and being big time stars at draft pick number 55. Who knows what happens with Bronny James? On the marketing side, I mean, the Lakers don't need more marketing, obviously. They are, the biggest brand in the NBA, or one of the biggest brands in the NBA. But just the publicity, the storylines, everything that's connected with it, it's just going to be even more eyeballs on the Lakers. The only guy that I feel like, wow, this kind of sucks, is J.J. Redick being put into a very difficult situation that we've never seen before. Father, son, one of the greatest players of all time. How much playing time will Bronny James actually see? The stress of that job, which already being Lakers coach is very stressful. It just feels like it got even more complicated and more difficult for someone that's never even had a coaching job before. So those are the two that I really wanted to highlight. So anything to add to that?
Yeah, Bronny's interesting to me. I mean, people forget, maybe people don't forget, but the guy had a heart issue and was like, he didn't start playing until January. So basically, all of January and some of February, it's like almost kind of like a ramp up period. You think of it with like pitchers, who come back mid season or coming back from Tommy John and skip spring training. Like, you need a preseason, you need just something to get your body ready. And he had his games here and there where he looked pretty good, and he was a high school player. I think he was a 4-star. It's not like,
I heard today he was a 5-star. I was
is
like,
he a 5-star?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't remember that, but I
I
saw
mean,
that today, and I was like, okay, I guess he was a 5 star. I don't remember that, but
oh, there you go. He's a 5 star. I wish the best for the kid, man. I mean, second round's you're throwing darts anyway, and you want to talk about a dart throw? We had a guy named AJ Johnson drafted by the Bucks, number 23 overall, and he averaged 2.7 points in the Australian League. That's a dart throw at 23, and you're telling me that Bronny James at 55? I mean, why not? Like you said, why not? I mean,
why not? If he molds
yeah,
out to
we'll
be
see if he even
something,
plays.
I mean, we know he's got the genetics there. I mean, who knows? I mean, and a lot of people have used the analogy, which I don't like this analogy, but a lot of people have said we think he's going to be a better pro player. I don't love that saying, but I've heard that a lot, and I'm like, well, we'll see how it unfolds. It's worth a gamble. At 55, you're kind of just you're throwing darts, as you said. You don't know who's going to hit. Most of the guys in the
He could
second round,
continue growing.
yeah. I mean, as we've seen over the
He's
last,
only 19.
yeah, as we've seen in all NBA drafts, throughout the years, once you get to the second round, 50% of those guys never even make it. So, like, at all. So it's like, yeah, why not? It's worth a shot. Um, Before
Yeah,
moving
I
on,
mean,
oh, sorry,
he
go
could
for it.
still. I was just gonna say he could still grow. I mean, Charles Barkley, I think he grew as like a sophomore, or junior at Auburn. He grew like 4 or 5 inches. So
Well, I
will
mean,
Bronny grow? I don't know. Probably
Bronny's
not.
the,
But
the the funny thing about Bronny, he's not small. I mean, he's 6'7". I mean, he's a big dude.
no, 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 no. He's not. No, no, no.
Or,
Bronny?
it's his
He's no, no, no. He's
maybe it's his his arm
wingspan.
wingspan. His wingspan's 6'7".
Yeah,
Sorry, my
I
bad.
think he's like. No, yeah, Bronny
Gotta look it up now.
is six.
I,
I think
that,
he's 6'2"
I,
with like a
I, I might
6'7"
have I
wingspan.
might have heard the wrong thing. I think his 6'7" is his wingspan.
I think defensively he could be pretty. Obviously, everyone's saying that, but defensively he could be pretty good. But the biggest thing is going to be getting on the court,
Yeah,
and I don't think he plays next year really at all. So that's
he'll
really all I
be
got about
he'll be
Bronny.
he'll be interesting to see what he does in summer league. I guess we'll see that in a couple weeks. So, moving on, I'll let you take this over. It's been a busy couple weeks with soccer. So I'll let you. I know you've been watching it. I'll let you chime in. How we doing U.S. side, and how is Euro going as well?
Yeah, so the Euros are in a little bit of a break right now. Saturday will begin the round of 16. So the big takeaway from group play was the own goal. I saw some stat. It was like I think there's been like 7 or 8 own goals, and compared to previous tournaments, whether it's the World Cup or Euro, just any kind of big soccer tournament, it's like the most own goals that like they've had in a hell of a long time. Um, but big takeaways for me: Italy squeaked in literally by the hair of their chins at the like literally the last. I mean, you can't even. It was a walk off to basically it was a walk off equalizer. That's the funny part. They were losing 1-0, and they score a goal to equalize, which then put them into I want to say second in their group, and they were able to make it to the round of 16. And that's huge because Italy didn't make the World Cup back in 2022, and that's bad. Like for a country like that and who values soccer as highly as they do, like not making the World Cup. I mean, that probably broke not only little kids' hearts, but old men, old women, middle-aged men, middle-aged women. I mean, soccer's life everywhere but America for the most part. So if they if they didn't make it to the round of 16 in the Euros, yeah, that would have been not great. But as for the round of 16, Spain is still kind of my favorite. They're in there's a top half of the bracket and there's a bottom half of the bracket. And the bottom half of the bracket has Germany, Spain, France, and Portugal. So we have an opportunity to have semifinal. Would it be semifinal? Quarterfinal. Be quarterfinal matches of Germany versus Spain and France versus Portugal, those are big time matchups. And then you look at the top half of the bracket and you have Switzerland, Italy, England, Slovakia, Romania, Netherlands, Austria, Turkey. I mean, the star power is just not there. England is a betting favorite. Um, they definitely have a, quote unquote easier path to get to the final, but it's England, so they'll probably choke. And if that happens, one of my big questions is their manager Gareth Southgate. Is he going to stick around? He can't quite get it done for England, so if he can't win this Euros tournament, I think he needs to go, and I think England needs to find someone different to manage their team. And lastly, is when will France play like France? They were by far the betting favorites coming in to the tournament, especially coming off a nail biter lost to Argentina in that World Cup final. So they have the best player in the world, in my opinion, in Mbappe. They're still just not playing like the France that we've seen. So they, I don't know, they got to kick it into gear, or else they're going to see themselves potentially even losing to Belgium. So that's my Euro update. As for Copa America, we unfortunately just watched a USA loss to Panama. So I haven't watched much of the rest of the Copa America tournament, but the USA started out pretty hot in their first game. They won 2-0 and beat Bolivia. That was to be expected. As for today's game, it really all stemmed on in the first couple minutes of the game. I think it was the first 13 minutes. Tim Weah, a forward or winger, punched a Panama player in the back of the head and got a red card. And it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you can't do that. Like that. Yeah, you're just giving up on your team at that point. You're going down to 10 men. Flo Balogun, one of our strikers, who was between England and the USA, and obviously picked USA. He had a cracker of a ripper that just, it was a hell of a strike with his off foot, with his left foot. So the U.S. is up 1-0, 10 men on the field. Then we let Panama score within 5 to 10 minutes later. Panama scores, it's tied, and then we gave up a goal in the second, or pretty late in the second half, in the final 10 minutes of the game. But it was pretty demoralizing, but I still blame Tim Weah with that punch to Panama. So that's my U.S. recap. They play Uruguay next Monday, and it's looking like, depending what the outcome of the Uruguay-Bolivia game is tonight, the U.S. is probably going to have to beat Uruguay, and that'll be a tough task.
Got it. Well, that's a good recap.
Tried to keep it, got to give the people what they want when it comes to soccer, but I could go on forever. I love soccer so much.
Yeah. But moving on from soccer, we'll wrap this thing up pretty quickly here. 4th of July, right around the corner. You care about the hot dog eating contest, or we kind of all out? Joey Chestnut.
I'm excited about Joey Chestnut versus Kobayashi on Netflix, but
yeah.
there's no. Why did you watch the hot dog eating contest for Joey Chestnut?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I don't really care. Are you tuning in?
No, not gonna watch. I think don't care. James, any other final thoughts before we wrap up episode 2 here?
Not really. Hope everyone has a safe and happy 4th of July. Don't pull a Jason Pierre-Paul. Be safe with those fireworks.
I still can't believe that
happened. Yeah, watch your fingers.
Yeah, be careful with those fireworks. We should be back in a week, maybe a week or two. Both of us are going to be around, so we'll pop in, guys. Thank you so much if you watched up to this point. We are on YouTube and on Spotify. Check us out. Until next time. Thank you guys for watching, and keep watching sports. I'll see you later.
Take it easy.